just to understand the idea of documentation started a little bit early in Egypt around 1822, while the discovery of the Rosetta Stone, which the scientist Jean-Francois Champollion, who make the decoding for the ancient Egyptian language, when we make all the inscriptions, study all the inscriptions of the Rosetta Stone to be able to know the ancient Egyptian language. And from this part, the Egyptology start to be like a wide science to be studied from all over the world. Since this time, of course, many archaeologists all over the world, they would like to come to Egypt to make the excavation and to see the wonderful sites there. And then one of the most important moments also that we can speak about is the discovery of the tomb of Tutankhamun in 1922. Since this time that we can see that the archaeological situation in Egypt start to be more and more professional. Many rules had been came into real to arrange all the let's say the steps of the archaeological excavation mainly in Egypt, and also to give some strict for the people who are making the excavation there. Because of this, with the starting of the salvage of the Nubian temples before building the High Dam south of Egypt, the Center of Documentation of Egyptian Antiquities had been established in 1956. This is one of the most important base, let's say, in the Egyptian antiquities, who are responsible for documentation, not only the sites, but also all the documentation process according to the archaeological sites, and also for the excavation and to make documentation for all the ancient Egyptian sites over Egypt. The excavation in Egypt, mainly for nowadays, we have more than 260 international archaeological excavations, comes mainly from more than 30 different countries over the world. And beside this, also we have more than 40 Egyptian archaeological missions working now in Egypt. All of them, they have to be working under the rules and restriction of Supreme Council of Antiquities in Egypt. So we have kind of big manage for all this the activities of the archaeological excavation. This, of course, as I said, under the supervision of the Supreme Council of Antiquities in Egypt, and also the Permanent Committee. Permanent Committee is the it's the one who's responsible for arranging and controlling all the archaeological sites and excavation, and they make discussions with everyone who would like to come to Egypt to make an excavation, and to put the rules for all the archaeologists to work according to these rules, especially collecting the data and to preserve all of this data mainly in the Supreme Council of Antiquities. Mainly nowadays we are the documentation, we have many features of documentation, of course, relating to the archaeological sites, starting from the archaeological survey for the archaeological sites. Also the documentation for the excavation. We have, of course, hundreds of sheets that we have to record all the data, and then also we have to record the immovable and movable findings, if it is like small statues or even big temples, it depends. Also we make documentation for all kinds of restoration and conservation had been done in the archaeological site, till we reach till the end of the storage or the inventory, the archiving, everything, the final destination. Let's say if this had been stored in a storeroom or in a museum or somewhere else. Nowadays we are using the new technologies, of course, like many sites all over the world, that especially the 3D scanning, the photogrammetry, GIS, and all of this kind of new kind of technology to be used in the archaeological sites. We have really a good opportunities in Egypt according to the international cooperation, especially in the field of archaeology, especially after the pandemic of COVID-19. Now the Egyptian government is really open to have more and more cooperation, especially about they have a very strong file of antiquities, of course, and we really make kind of very international cooperation with many institutions, of course, like ICOM, like CIDOC, and other institutions. Also, nowadays we have enrolling many capacity building courses in order to train the people who are involved in the archaeological excavation for the new technology in the excavation and the digging and recording everything related to the excavation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. So continuing on the situation in Egypt, I'm summing up the situation at museums. And for those of you who attended the... Okay. Is it good now? Yeah, okay. So for those of you who attended the illicit trafficking panel discussion like an hour ago or so, you already know what I'm talking about. So again, yes, Egypt has a lot of history in colonization of cultural properties of the country, of resources, of everything. And since that time, we don't only have like a scientific or archaeological discipline for our name, like Egyptology, but also there is an expression, Egyptomania, which describes how people are crazy about everything which is ancient Egyptian. This is how we got a lot of treasure hunters, foreign expeditions, international scientists or Egyptologists coming to Egypt to study and work in archaeology and in our museums. So I'm not going to repeat what Mustafa has already said, but talking about museums, I'm not saying most of the curators, but all of the curators during the early time of museology in Egypt, all of them were international. There is one document says that Egyptians were not allowed to curate Egyptian collections at our museums. So if we're talking about documentation, then all the documentation at our museums since that time are made by foreign or international curators, especially at the one place that's seen as the most important museum in Egypt, Cairo Egyptian Museum in Tahrir Square. So if we take this museum as an example, we can find that several registration books for the same museum, because when we change the management, then they changed the approach to do everything. And so we have like a Catalogue General, temporary register, serial register. There are a lot of registration books in the same museum for the same objects. And this means that sometimes we have the same object, but it has a lot of numbers, many register books for the same object. And at the end, because all of those museums under the same ministry, which is the Ministry of Antiquities, when we, like, for example, would like to open a new museum, we try to get some collections from other museums, like the Egyptian Museum in Tahrir, because it's full of artifacts and we need to reorganize a display. Then the object which is moving from this museum to the new museum gets another number, another registration and recording system. And during the old times also, they used to write the numbers on the object. So imagine that we can have an object like this and the numbers written many times because it has a lot of numbers. So these are like the old days. But today, if you are working on these kind of registers at our museums, we have different languages. Sometimes it's French, sometimes it's English, but also the standards and the ethics of documentation and the approaches they used are different. Each one is different than the other. There is no Arabic, and sometimes it's really difficult to understand the handwriting. So we start to ask each other, can you read this? Can you understand what is written here? Because it was written like 70, 80 years ago, and we have no clue what does it mean. And because a lot of objects have been moved out of Egypt, so sometimes we have the objects, but we don't have the records because there are some international Egyptologists worked on this, so they kept all the documents and we have the objects, and sometimes it's the opposite. We have the documents, but the object is somewhere in Europe in a museum or an archive. And maybe here we should note that we have no idea that about the Egyptian objects. Where are them? How many objects are in each country? How to get information about the Egyptian collections all around the world? There is nothing like this. So back to the situation in our museums in documentation. Currently, we have some collection management systems. Like, for example, the Cairo Museum, they use KMU, which is, let's say, the most advanced in our museums. The Grand Egyptian Museum, they use FileMaker. I know that some of other museums use FileMaker, but also some smaller museums still use Excel files to digitize their collections. I know that there have been some attempts to have like one database for, or at least one system for the majority of the museums, because all of them, or most of them, are under the Ministry of Antiquities. And I really think this will be a very good step to have all the objects inside Egypt in the same place, until we have someone to say that, yes, we can have a global international database for Egyptian collections. Good. So back to the sites. So when those people at excavations, when they have like new discoveries, it means that we have new knowledge. New knowledge means that a lot of things are changing, and many information can be changing in the thesaurus that we are using. And the timeline for Egypt's history is really long, and sometimes it's intervenes with each other, like Coptic art, for example. It's considered part of the Greek-Roman. So sometimes it depends on who are documenting. The rich history makes a headache sometimes, because I actually talked about this in Heraklion, in CIDOC conference in Heraklion, but I'm repeating this again because we have the director here for this site. So it's very beautiful to have a block like this in our site or museums or whatever, but what do you do if you have something like this? So this is one place, one spot inside one temple in Egypt, and he is the director. I don't know how to document all of this. Also, the bulk discoveries that some of the objects are usually found in high numbers, like shaptis, amulets, coins, for example. So to sum up the challenges we have now, I don't think I have time to go through all of this, so at least you can see some of them. But talking about opportunities, of course, the international cooperation, because we have this since like many years before, but also we all the time have new projects. This is one of the projects that I've been overseeing with the British Museum's Egypt Documentation project. It was aiming to train Egyptian archaeologists on the work of documentation. Other considerations should be like, are we documenting the objects only, but what about the people who were involved in this? Because some of them were ignored during the entire history of Egyptology. What about the context of the objects, where they were found? What about the intangible heritage attached to the physical object itself? Are you documenting this? This is maybe one of the dreams that maybe someday someone will think about this, an international database for ancient Egyptian art all over the world, at least to know what we have. So this is to sum up the situation in our museum. Thank you.